What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we are going to be diving into episode number 3 of Finding a General Manager. In today's spotlight, it's Ed Dodds. So let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, we're talking about Ed Dodds. I said Edwin because I don't know a lot of Edwin, so it sounded cool. So Edwin Dodd. We're talking about Ed Dodds, a guy that you guys have told me to check out many, many times. And I was like, all right, we'll do it. We'll check out some Ed Dodds. I really didn't know anything about him, like at all. So it was pretty new to me when I checked him out. And let me just say, man, I'm excited. I like what I'm seeing. I really do. What I'm seeing here, I'm excited about this. I'll explain in this video why, but I think for the 3 that we've went through so far, I think he's number 1. I think he's number 1 right now. Now, there's a lot of guys to look at, but Ed Dodds right now gets the nod, I think, so far. Ed Dodds gets the nods. No? Okay, let's talk about Ed Dodds a little bit. Let's first go through the background, the history of Ed Dodds. Now, this is a little bit hard for me to figure out because, I don't know, it just wasn't clear. Like, I'm trying to figure it out. I don't completely understand it, so if I'm a little off on this one, okay, give me a break. It's just the background. But either way, let's talk about it a little bit. So Ed Dodds has grown up around football, 6'7". When he was a little kid, he grew up around football. And I think it's because of his parents at his house. It was always going on. There was always coaches there, players there, things like that. And it helped grow his passion for wanting to work in the NFL, in the football industry. And he did some work at colleges and things like that. Apparently always wanted to work in the NFL. And he gave us this quote. And I read this quote and I was like, dang, I want this guy even more. Okay, listen to those. It may sound arrogant, but I knew I could work harder than a lot of people. You see laziness every day. But if you just get up and do your job, good things are going to happen. It might take longer than you want sometimes, but it will happen. That's what he said. And you know what? He made it happen. He got into the NFL. And in 2007, he got his first opportunity with the Seattle Seahawks. So obviously, that's a good place to go to, Seattle. You know, you get a good coaching staff there to work with. His first opportunity then in 2007 with the Seattle Seahawks. And he helped them build into pretty big things. And we know who they are now because of what they built there. You know, the Legion of Boom, drafting Russell Wilson. He was a big influence in all of this. But he started there as a national scout. And he worked his way up through the ranks to the senior executive of player personnel. So from 2007 to 2016, he's working with Seattle. We'll talk about some of the connections that he made there. But then he gets the opportunity with the Indianapolis Colts with Chris Ballard. And from what I can understand, he knew Chris Ballard back when he was a teenager, but he gets the opportunity there as an assistant GM. So he's just working his way up. Now, first off, I like this. Assistant GM. It's about as close to a GM job as you can get without being a general manager. So I like that. So assistant GM, boom, that's where he is with the Indianapolis Colts. And he had a very big impact and influence. And how do I know that? Because they tell us that. Let me just ask you this question. How many assistant GMs do you know, aside from this guy? Like, if I asked you those questions, you probably wouldn't know many. I mean, could you realistically name many assistant general managers in the NFL? I don't even know if every team has one. Look at a guy like Ed Dodds, and I see that everywhere he's been, he's getting credit for all of these things. Like, they were just saying that, okay, he did this. Look at the influence he had here, the impact he had here, such an impact he had on drafting this guy, signing this guy, trading for this guy. The fact that this is what we're hearing from a guy that doesn't want this attention from what we know is pretty incredible. So obviously he was involved in a lot of these moves. So he goes into Indianapolis 2017, and man, this team, their defense was really struggling. They were like 29th in DVOA, so they were struggling. And boy, have they turned it around. Like, they are back on track. Now, Andrew Luck, the whole injury situation, that made it tough. But they turned it back around. And now here they are. We know this season they're doing some big, good things, some big things. They beat the Packers. They beat us pretty bad. Look, the Indianapolis Colts are a pretty darn solid team. I think some point in November, they were the 4th in DVOA defensively. The defense has turned around. And you look at their drafts, you look at their trades, their signings, and the fact that he's getting a lot of credit for all these moves, first off, is awesome. But you see a lot of hits here. Okay, it's very tough to judge a general manager on drafts and things like that because even if you know he's making the picks, it's tough because every pick can be controversial in terms of, well, I don't think he's that good, but I think he's good. Well, he would fit on my team, but not your team. So it's very difficult to assess all that. But what I can tell you is that he was the assistant GM, who was in the draft room, which is big, right? We talked about that. Louis Riddick, we don't even know if he was ever in a draft room. And you look at some of the moves that they made, some of the draft picks, some of the trades that they pulled off on draft day, and the success that they were able to find, and they continue to build a good team in Indianapolis, it just makes you interested. Back to 2017, they hit on some really big picks. Malik Hooker, Marlon Mack. You know, there's some really good picks in there, but they were able to find some good players as the draft went on. But, I mean, you look at the draft since then, 2018, Quentin Nelson, who they traded back to select, by the way, Darius Leonard. Quentin Nelson was given a D+ grade by a draft site, all right? And we know he's like one of the best linemen in the league. And you'll see one thing they will notice with all of these drafts is that they get a lot of picks. Why do they have so many picks in these drafts? Well, because This is Chris Ballard's idea, but I think it's something that Ed Dodds may bring to Detroit as well if he was here. But his thought is, I want more picks. That way I have more darts to throw at the draft board. So he's not afraid at all to move back. He will stockpile draft picks, and we've seen him do it time and time again, and it's seemingly working out for the better. They basically turned 3 picks into like 9 really good players for them. There's a whole article on it on how the Colts did this. They've done some really big things in the drafts, and you can just roll through them. I mean, heck, 2018 draft, look how many players that we went against. Quentin Nelson, Darius Leonard, Nyheim Hines. Right? You got Jordan Wilkins. There's some good players in there. And I'm not even a Colts fan. 19, Rock Ya-Sin, Paris Campbell, Bobby Orikri. I don't even know how to say the linebacker's name, but I know he covers well. They got Kyrie Willis. You go to 2020. We know they went out in their first pick. They brought in the YouTube star. There you go. Michael Pittman. Then Jonathan Taylor, who I think is going to be really good. They got Jacob Eason, who could be their potential starter there. So, man, they make some good picks. It seems like they have some really good picks here. And, look, you're not going to hit on all of them. But from just what I can tell from looking at that is they do a really good job. And he also finds a way to hit on some later round picks, those mid-round picks, to have an impact on the team, which a lot of times those picks, they just go away. It's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, after the 3rd round, you're probably not going to make it here anyways. They seem to hit on those. And I felt like the Lions did a good job. I didn't think Bob Quinn was a terrible drafter. I really didn't. I mean, I know what the thought was. You're not going to hit on every pick. I've read a thing that said if you hit on 30% of your picks, it's good. I feel like Bob Quinn, from what I remember by the math, he hit on way more than 30%. I've compared to other GMs. He was good in that. But again, it's hard to compare. But, man, if you look at the Indianapolis Colts, they've done that same thing of hitting on those type of players, right? Julian Blackmon. Like, they've hit on those mid-rounds to late type of players that have had an impact on the team. What is his philosophy for drafting? Well, here's what I learned about his philosophy for drafting. The first thing is this. He wants guys that are relentless because he says it's a long season, so I need guys that are relentless players. Those guys that get after it, they know how long the season is. That's the first thing. But obviously that comes second to talent. The first thing he looks at is talent. All right, let's put all there. Are you talented or not? And I like that. Let's be straightforward with. Let's be honest here. All right, all that other stuff is great. How much talent this dude got? Then he looks after relentless. How athletic a player is, right? What is your 40 time? What is your drill cone time? How quick are you as a player? The athletic ability, the stuff that's very difficult to teach. He's very, very influenced by those numbers. So that's another thing that I thought I would bring up here is just some of the ways that he looks at it. And even back when he was with the Seattle Seahawks, they called him his secret weapon. This is an assistant GM, by the way. Wasn't an assistant GM there, but he's assistant GM with Indianapolis. He was known as the secret weapon. I mean, who is this guy? The secret weapon for real? Like building a secret weapon to find Russell Wilson. The secret weapon to build this Legion of Boom. How are you known as that? I mean, he's an assistant GM now. I mean, still not that many people know about him. If it wasn't for him potentially being a candidate for a next general manager position. Now, when it comes to signing and drafting, not going to be perfect on all these, so you can't expect every move to be perfect. But he's what they've really credited him for, and again, we don't know who's making the final decisions, but we do know what they bring up about him. I'm assuming not going to bring up bad things, but when you look up, some of the things that they've said about him, Chris Ballard, he wasn't fond of Kenny Moore. He didn't want Kenny Moore, but you got a guy over here in Ed Dodds who says, no, I want Kenny Moore, bring him in. He likes his arms. He's perfect. He's all about length and things like that, which, by the way, could be perfect for us because we got those big, hitting cornerbacks. So I think he would be great transition maybe into that. But he's like, okay, we'll go do it. And they brought him in. Kenny Moore's been big for them. You look at Autry. He wanted Autry. He really pushed for Autry. They brought him in. He's been big for them. So it seems like he really has done a really good job on hitting on free agents, the cheaper free agents that get overlooked, those kind of guys. Right around the 1st round pick, but they had a 2nd round pick that they received from Washington, but they traded away the 1st round pick. And guess what? They landed with Forrest Buckner. Like, the Forrest Buckner, that guy's a beast. You're not going to find a lot of former general managers that are looking for another GM candidate. There's not a lot that we're probably going to take a look at. But this guy, being very close as an assistant GM, with all the credit that he has been given from his time in Seattle, now to his time in Indianapolis, it really just speaks to his, okay, it seems like he's a very good evaluator. Matt Miller said he was the best scout in the NFL. He said he was the best scout straight up in the NFL. Boom. He knows how to evaluate talent. All right, you want to talk about evaluating talent? This guy gets tons of credit. He's gotten way more credit than any of the other guys I've even heard of. I mean, they really like this. People around the NFL really like them. There's 10 guys around the NFL. Most of them will tell you that Ed Dodds is the best talent evaluator. And again, this isn't even a general manager. This is an assistant GM that is getting this type of praise. So that is what really speaks out to me. Okay, but then there's some other concerns. There's really a concern against him, not something that I don't like about him, but it is whether or not you'd actually be able to land him. I mean, I know it sounds crazy to think that that's a concern, but it really is. It's probably the biggest red flag maybe that's thrown up here is because how realistic is it that he could actually be your next general manager? First off, let's start by, okay, we're the Detroit Lions right now, and we don't seem to be in the best situation for a GM. Usually when you're looking to hire a GM, you're probably not in a good situation, but we got a quarterback whose future seems to be up in the air, right? We don't know where that's going. We're not sure, if when he comes in, who our head coach will be at that point or not, but would he want to come to the Detroit Lions? Next up, he hasn't had tons of interviews. From what I can tell, The one interview that he was offered from the Cleveland Browns because they were going to hire their head coach first and then make the decision on their GM, he turned down the interview. He turned down the interview with the Cleveland Browns. So he's not even taking interviews. He wanted to stay and work with the Indianapolis Colts, who, like I said, he is working with the GM there, and Chris Ballard, who he knew since he was a teenager. So he may not even want to leave and become a general manager. I mean, you would think that the guy would want to get promoted, so I don't want to speak for him. But there's that chance that he may look at this and be like, you know what, I kind of like what I'm doing. I like working with him. I don't want to leave and try to go do my own thing. I like having the influence. I like working with these guys. And I think we're doing some big things here. Every NFL GM or whoever's working next year, we don't know what the salary cap is going to look like because of COVID and everything that's going on there. So who knows how much money he would actually have. If you do move on from Stafford and, you know, you get a new head coach, it could be a completely new rebuild, and you have a lot of guys on 2-year deals. It'd be his first time doing this, and you know that the pressure in Detroit, because you've never been successful, is going to be extremely high. So when you take over, look, you got about 3 years to make it right, and if it's not there, you're probably going to get fired. So is that really what he wants? With all this praise and all this stuff getting shouted at him, does he want to, in a very weird what could be next season, does he want to take a job? Now, that goes for everybody, but the fact that what we've seen with him turning down the offer from the Browns, does he realistically want to take a job as a general manager next season, or would he rather just wait another year? I mean, I'm sure there's a pay raise becoming a general manager, but he may just like to do what he's doing. And you know what? You can't hate on a guy for doing that. So he may look at it and be like, I don't want to do this. And then there's this quote, Chris Ballard, which maybe concerns you a little bit as well. He says this: he doesn't like the attention as a decision maker. He may not even want to be a GM. So that tells you, okay, hold up. He doesn't like the attention as a decision maker. Okay, well, now this was last year, but does he want to be a general manager? I mean, do you want a guy that doesn't sure if he wants to be a decision maker? I mean, he would have to be completely bought in, I would think, to take the job here. I mean, you would think he would be. But I'm not even sure if you'd be able to realistically land him. So we will assume that you could land him, and that's why we'll talk about him. But there's also that chance that, you know, maybe this guy doesn't take the job. So there's that concern. So here's the next big thing. What head coach would he hire? Now, the Browns did it a different way. They asked Ed Dodds for an interview, right? They said, hey, Ed Dodds, would you interview, you know, for us being our GM? But they wanted to do it a different way. They're saying, wait, we're going to hire our head coach first. Based on who we hire as our head coach, we will then hire our general manager. So that's kind of what their plan was to do it. So, you know, they went out there, they hired Kevin Stefanski, so they passed on to Ed Dodds. That's how the Cleveland Browns decided to do it. Now, if Ed Dodds was given that job and Darrell Bevell wasn't here and he was given a fresh start, okay, what head coaches would he be interested in? Well, there's two names I see tied with him. Again, one, Robert Saleh. Why? Because of the connection. You go back to his Seattle days, 2011 to 2013, he worked with Robert Saleh, who is also in Seattle. So that connection, a defensive-minded coach, he's known for building defenses in the offseason. That connection seems to be there. Who is the other guy? Well, it's the current defense coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts, who's also up for a head coaching job potentially next season. That's Matt Eberflus. I think that's how you say his name. Don't know a lot about him right now. We'll probably do a video down the road. But that's another guy that's come up a lot. Now, what about that scenario where Darrell Bevell keeps the job? Where Darrell Bevell does a really good job in these last 5 games, and he gets the opportunity to be the head coach next season. There's the thought that it could fit, but then there's also the thought that it couldn't fit. The first reason that it could fit is because, again, there's a connection. He was working in Seattle when Darrell Bevell was also the offensive coordinator in Seattle. So they did cross paths, work together on certain players that they wanted to bring in for the offense side of the ball. So it makes you think that, okay, there's a connection here. There might be something here, and he may be willing to work with Darrell Bevell, even though he's just an offensive-minded coach. You can't bring in a GM that wants to fire him. That doesn't make any sense. You can't do that. Would he be willing to work with him? Would he not? The reason to believe that he could is because they do have that connection. There is that chance that it could work with Bevell, which makes me interested because, okay, this could potentially, we'll put a nice little question mark by it. This could be a maybe as to if Bevell keeps the job as a guy that the Lions could look to bring in as their general manager. He seems to know what talent he's looking for and how to build a team. And I actually don't think that they would completely blow up this defense. I mean, if you brought him in and the Lions went with another defensive-minded coach, which NFL teams are going way more offensive-minded now, but if they did that, I don't think they would have to completely blow us up. We talk about Robert Saleh, but I look at things that he looks for. Certain corners, the long corners, the rangy corners. I think we have those right now. You know, he talks about linebacker specialty. You know, I think we got a couple, but we definitely need some work there anyways, so it wouldn't be a problem, you know, to try to upgrade that position with someone that knows a lot about it. If flags here, it's just more about, okay, one, what type of coach is he going to bring in? Do you really want to if you're okay with bringing a defensive-minded coach, then this guy's fine. But if you're not, if you want to go offensive-minded, because there's a very good chance he'll probably go with that defensive-minded head coach if he's picking his own. Does he really want to be a GM? Would you be able to actually land him? Because you could want him all you want, but does he actually want to be an NFL GM? That'd be something that'd be interesting to hear about. I don't really know what his thoughts would be on Stafford. I have no idea what he would do with Matthew Stafford. I mean, I know he's a defensive guy, and if you brought in a defensive-minded coach, I'm kind of leaning to the side they probably keep Stafford because, hey, we don't really know tons about the offense, so we're going to rock with Stafford. But he has drafted backup backup quarterback. So I think he would keep Stafford, and I think he would have drafted a guy to develop behind him. So from what I see, man, I think this is a good option. I think across the board, it looks good. And if he wants to take this job, if he wants to take this over in this responsibility, I think it's great. But if you don't want to go with another defensive-minded coach, and again, I want to bring in a guy with a season. I want to bring in a head coach that's done it before. I'm really hoping Darrell Bevell can make this thing work out. I'd love to see it. And maybe this is a guy that could potentially fit with Darrell Bevell. So that's another thing that I like, because if he's like, yeah, I'll work with Darrell Bevell. I like that guy. You know, I'm known to want to bring in a defensive-minded coach, but that's what just people are saying. You know, I can build a defense, but that doesn't mean I need a head coach that's known for defense. I can rock with my head coach, you know, being Darrell Bevell. I know him. We had a good relationship. And then all of a sudden you're in business, because then you're like, okay, now we got a GM who could match up with Darrell Bevell. That's, again, assuming Bevell's able to finish off these last 5 games well. So that'd be pretty cool, right? That'd be pretty cool, and that's what I like about him. But if he's like, no, I want my defensive-minded coach, and you're like, yeah, I don't really want to go that route, then you unfortunately got to stay away from him, because, you know, you can't do it, because that's the guy that he'll want to bring in, and it'll be a mess until you do. So let me know your thoughts, comments below. A couple of things that are still up in the air as we're trying to figure out about him, but man, when it comes to the scouting, to finding the right talent, that kind of thing, I'm interested. I'm very interested. So let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching. And are you kidding me right now? I had to put my helmet on for this one. Are you kidding? Look at this. Look at all these members. What? Yo, hey. Shout out to all the members, man. Look how many All-Pro members there are. Like, literally, it's the whole screen, dog. This is crazy. The patrons, of course, the Hall of Fame members, man. Y'all got the gold color. It's kind of yellow, but it's supposed to be gold. Shout out to all the members, man. If you want to be a part of this, all you got to do is join the channel. But there are perks that come with it. Stay locked in the community tab if you are a member, because that's where a lot of information comes out. I appreciate all of you. What?